Why don't you use this? Great. Too many things. All right, well, welcome everybody. I was trying not to be on the stage because it's too far away. You guys are all in the back. So I'm Robert Davis. I'm a professor in engineering at the University of Colorado, which is in Boulder. And I've been coming for more than 12 years to recruit students from Catalunya to come to the University of Colorado. And so we're going to tell you about a couple opportunities. One is a short-term mobility, and the other is to come back for your graduate studies. And Britta Bergstam's my assistant, and she'll tell you a little bit about the program as well. But let me get to know you a little bit. How many of you are undergraduate students? Almost everybody. Is anybody a master's student or a graduate student? Couple maybe? Okay. And how many are in, what do you call it, Camines? Camines? Okay, is anybody in FIB? Couple? Is anybody in telecom? No, nobody in telecom. Okay. And how many of you have been to the United States? Half? More than half? How many have been to Colorado? Oh, good. Have you been to Boulder? All right. These guys have been to Boulder because they're part of our program, and we'll have them say a little bit about Boulder in a little bit. So the picture behind me is a picture of the university, and then behind the university is the town of Boulder, and then the mountains are right behind it. So it's a beautiful place, and we hope you have the opportunity to come. We're going to talk both about a mobility program, like I mentioned, but one of the purposes of the mobility program is to see if you're interested in research and see if you're interested in coming back for a graduate study. So the next slide talks a little bit about what you might want to do after you finish your degree and you have the opportunity to hopefully get a job. I think employment's a little bit better now than it used to be. Or you can continue in school and learn more and become an expert in your studies. And we're advocating for that second possibility as an attractive option. And next slide. But why come to the United States? Opportunity to travel, opportunity to learn new cultures, learn new things. But in particular, through graduate study, you'll be able to, have more career options. It's very different maybe in the United States than here, where most of the students, when they graduate, go to work in companies, either large companies or small companies in the research divisions. And only a few go into academia, whereas here, I think if you get a PhD, it's most likely you go into academia. A lot of the students, when they finish their graduate studies, also stay in the United States for a few years because the jobs are very good and the salaries are very good and so forth. All right, so give you a little background. This all started with the man on the left, Pete Balcells. He was born here in Barcelona in 1928. But he left Catalunya when he was age 18 and came to the United States in order to study. And he came to the University of Colorado Boulder, where we're from, and he studied mechanical engineering. And while he was at the University of Colorado, he picked a study partner, and he picked the best student in the class, and it was a woman, young woman, and she was an American, and they got married. And so he stayed in the United States after he finished his studies. And he was a very creative individual. He has over 100 patents to his name. He invented a spring-loaded seal. He also, while he was still in Barcelona, was trained in tool and die making. And so he got a job in the United States making parts. And then he formed his own company using this seal that he invented. And that company grew quite a bit. It was in California, has over 500 employees in California, and then also a manufacturing site in Colorado. And then when his wife died, in about 1995, I think she passed away, he started the Balcells Fellowship, which was to give other students from Catalunya the opportunity to come first to California at University of California, Irvine, which was near his company. And then he started the program at the University of Colorado Boulder, because that's where he had gone to school. And that started in about 2010. Pete sold his company in 2020, and at that time, The funding from his company stopped, but our program has continued, and we've expanded it not just to Catalonia, but we recruit elsewhere in Europe, and so you'll see some of the countries that are involved. Yeah, I'm not ready yet. And the Generalitat also was a generous contributor to the program for a number of years. Pete unfortunately passed away this summer, about 2 or 3 months ago, but his legacy remains, and this program is really a testament to his legacy. All right, now we can go. So, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about 2 programs, a mobility program where you can come for 4 or 5 months. It's one term. You'd either come from July to December or from February to June, probably, and do a final project. It could either be your final undergraduate project or it could be a master's thesis, and you do it in a research group at the University of Colorado in engineering. Or the second opportunity is to come back for graduate studies, and those are longer-term studies. A master's degree takes 1.5 or 2 years in the United States. The thesis is usually a little bit more involved. And then we do encourage students who also would continue for a PhD, which might take 4 or 5 years, including the master's, so 3 years more than the master's degree. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the history. We've so far had 89 students come for mobility. A couple in the audience we'll introduce in a little bit, but most of them, most of them have been from Catalonia, and many from this school here, or from the schools here on this campus. And then we've had 58 students return for graduate study for master's and/or PhD degrees. About half of the mobility students have come back to do their graduate studies, and then a few students have come that didn't do mobility, and then they came for graduate studies because they had a friend who did mobility and they heard how nice Boulder is and how good the university is. With the expanded program, we've had more than 6 countries represented. Spain's still our most prominent country because of the long-term relationships that we have here, but we've had students come from the Netherlands, Italy, Ireland, Germany, Hungary, and France so far, and so it's a real cosmopolitan type program now. All right, next. Well, I think you know the geography of the world, but we're in Spain over on the right, and Boulder's in the United States, and it's in sort of the middle of the country. Most of you, if you've been in the United States, you've come either to the east side of the country where New York is, or you've come to the west side where California is. Boulder's right in the middle, and it's right up against the mountains, and is a beautiful location. And I think Britta is going to tell you a little bit more about Boulder in Colorado now.
Yeah, so like Rob said, I'm Britta, and I'm a recently graduated alumna from the University of Colorado. I did my bachelor's and my master's in civil engineering there. And I'm also from Colorado originally, grew up there. And a lot of people in the U.S., once they turn 18, they like to go far away from college, but I loved Colorado so much that I decided to stay. And moved up to Boulder, which is about 30 minutes away from my hometown, and it is, like Rob just said, an amazing place to live. So the population is a little bit over 100,000 people, and about 30,000 of those people are students at the university. So it's a large college town, and a lot of the life and atmosphere is like surrounded around or centered around the university, which makes it a really fun, young, lively place to live. Boulder and Colorado in general is really known for its outdoors activities, so there's lots of hiking and climbing and biking and skiing. The closest ski mountain is about 45 minutes away. We're also about 30 minutes in car from Denver, which is the capital of Colorado, so you can take a bus down there and experience the nightlife. That's not quite as great as the nightlife in Barcelona, but it's there. And then, the weather is amazing. There's 300 days of sunshine, so a lot of people know that it often snows in Colorado, but it'll always be sunny the next day and the snow melts off, and you can kind of swap out the different outdoors activities that you're doing every day. The university itself was founded about 150 years ago. Like I said, about more than 30,000 students. So a medium to large size school. We boast 5 Nobel Prize winners, and then the university is comprised of 8 different schools and colleges. Obviously, this program is focused on the College of Engineering and Applied Science. Rob mentioned before that the Year of Colorado program at our university started in 2020, and then I'm going to show the special strengths. These are the departments that we have within the College of Engineering and Applied Science. So as you can see, there's civil. I know a lot of y'all are from Camines. That was, again, the department that I was a part of. But yeah, there's all of the different engineering departments. And then within this School of Engineering, there's a little less than 6,000 undergrads, a little less than 3,000 graduate students, and a plethora of faculty members to do your research with for either your graduate studies or the mobility program. We also boast that we're the top-ranked engineering school in the Rocky Mountain region of the United States, which is kind of that whole southwest region of the U.S. Rob's going to talk about the mobility program now.
Yeah, so actually back to those of you who are undergraduate, your third year, fourth year? Third year? Okay, then the mobility program is really the thing that you might be interested in at this point. Students usually think about it during their third year and apply. And the mobility program, like I mentioned, is to undertake either your final project for your undergraduate degree or for your master's thesis. And you would come for, like I said, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 months in order to do that work. And it's full-time in the sense that you're not taking classes, you're focused on research. But schools back here, your home school, will give you credit for your research, both for your project and sometimes for your elective credits as well. We do provide some funding. So our college has a program to provide funding to students that will help make it possible for you to come. It's actually at $6,000, 5 months, so that's $1,200 a month. That's actually not quite enough to live in Boulder. Boulder's an expensive town, but if you are not too extravagant, it's close to enough, and then you can maybe get a grant from here or supplement from your family. But again, the key is to come and do a research project in one of the departments within the engineering college, and that includes computer science. And our hope is that you will enjoy it and that you'll find it something that you're passionate about and you'll consider coming back for your graduate study. Okay. And then on the handout that you have, I think that website is there. You can apply for a program. We ask that, if at all possible, you apply by the middle of March, and you can apply directly to us, but usually the school has an internal competition as well, and you might talk to Professor Carroll about that, because he often helps us pick out a couple of students each year from Camines, and we have somebody come from FIB and sometimes from telecom as well. Applying February. So if you're thinking of coming in July of 2023 or in February of 2024, you would want to apply by March of 2023. Okay. Next slide. Now, I'll talk a little bit ahead about the graduate program because in the back of your mind, thinking about that. But students often come back, like I've mentioned, and usually get a PhD. They enroll in our PhD program. They might get a master's on the way, which I think is a little bit different than here, where you enroll in a master's and you consider enrolling in a PhD. Here you enroll, but you get the master's on the way. And you take courses in your first year or two of your graduate study, but then you start doing your research, and then the later years of your graduate study are focused on your research project. And like I mentioned, once you graduate, the majority of our students go into industry, some into the research division of a large company, like we've had a lot of students go to work for Google or Apple or for one of the petrochemical companies, or for a large engineering construction company, or you might go to academia, but about 10 or 15% of our PhD graduates then go be professors in academia. One thing to mention is that the university has research and teaching assistantships available, especially for students who intend to complete a PhD, and those pay a reasonable stipend of about $3,000 a month, which is enough to live on and to go skiing and to fly home each year and maybe even have a little bit left over. And they pay all of your tuition and fees. And tuition and fees are very expensive in the United States because the government doesn't subsidize them very much. The federal government doesn't subsidize them at all. It's subsidized by the state, but only by a really small amount. And so our tuition and fees for a student who's not a resident of that state is in the order of $40,000. So they're probably like 10 as they are here. But those are all paid by the assistantship, okay? And then we do have a little funding left from the Balcells program and would pay for some of your travel if you're a student from Catalunya. I think we can move on. Okay, and we can skip this because that's for the next school we're going to. Graduate applications are due December 1st for the following year, so they're due earlier. So you might keep that in mind for the future, and there's information on the flyer of how to apply for graduate school. One thing I wanted to mention is there's a partner program at the University of California, Irvine. In fact, that's where the Balcells program started. And so there's information on how to apply to the University of California, Irvine if you want to go to California instead of Colorado. All right. So I'm going to hand it back to Britta, and she's going to talk about a couple of the students that have participated in the program.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the first two students pretty briefly because we've actually got some students who have participated in the program in the house, and I want to hear from them. This is Oscar. He went to University UPC in Terrassa for aerospace, and he did his TFG in Boulder in the spring of 2017. So as an undergrad, ended up loving it so much that he came back to CU for his master's and then PhD, and he's actually in his final year of the PhD program at CU right now in aerospace. And then this is Aoife. She was one of our first students for the Europe Colorado program, not the Balcells program. So she came in the fall of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic with two other students and was doing her master's thesis. Despite there being plenty of COVID restrictions, she fell in love with Boulder so much and ended up coming back and is a second-year student doing her PhD. And then we have a quick little video to show.
Em dic Josep Maria Fargas i benvinguts a Boulder, Colorado. Vaig arribar a Boulder, Colorado, el passat agost del 2015 per fer el treball final de grau. Quan passejo pel campus, em sento arropat pels Flatirons, que són les muntanyes a l'oest de la ciutat. La universitat, també coneguda com CU Boulder o simplement CU, és una universitat pública fundada el 1876, que abarca 30.000 estudiants i amb una extensió de 318 hectàrees. Els que estem a la Universitat de CU també se'ns coneix com Búfalos. Durant aquests 10 mesos he estat treballant al laboratori de nanofotònica liderat pel professor Milos Popovic. Aquí he estat treballant en òptica integrada on manipulem la llum per unes petites estructures de silici. La llum ve d'un làser i la fem arribar al xip mitjançant fibres òptiques. El meu rol al laboratori ha estat el de dissenyar petits acobladors de llum que permeten dividir la potència del xip en parts iguals i de manera molt precisa. La meva experiència està sent molt enriquidora i, a part de treballar, he tingut l'oportunitat d'explorar els Estats Units.
Yo que nunca he sido Sherpa, sé que coronar la cumbre cuesta y que un buen viaje nunca acaba cerca. Llevo de equipaje esta cabeza terca. Hoy me muevo por senderos nuevos que aún así me traen recuerdos viejos. La mente es un espejo, está encima de la mesa y se obceca en recordar el percal que no me interesa. Penas, penas, alegrías, alergias, sinergias de la energía, inercias que no terminan. Este es el juego del fuego y ser flamígero. Se exige lo mejor de nosotros, quema el oxígeno. Logré colar mi pico, la epístola en tu auricular y hablar con una díscola en un disco bar. Yo solo soy un terrícola, terrible y bipolar. Tenía pasión avícola y no conseguí volar, pero aún así aún me tiro. Si me despeño, al menos que sea poniendo empeño. Si me despierto, al menos que sea de un buen sueño. Si me la meto, al menos que sea enfrentando el reto como un hombre don, mirando al dragón a los ojos. Que si me lanzo al vacío, sea con los míos y con arrojo. Si te sonrojo, que sea con un piropo. Que si me topo contigo, te quedes un trecho. Porque de hecho, yo lo que quiero es que te guste, que te resulte tan...
Working again? There we go. Yeah, so we just like to show that video so you can kind of see the scenes of Boulder. In the back here, we have Jaume and Javi, who were both here, in Boulder last spring. Jaume was doing his bachelor's thesis with computer science, our computer science department, and your undergrad was in industrial and computer science double major, right? Okay, cool. And then Javi was working on his master's thesis in the civil department and is from Camins here. So we'd love it if, I don't know if you want to speak from there or come down here, one or both of you, no pressure. We are putting them on the spot right now that we did not ask them to prepare anything, but we'd love to just hear about like why you applied for the mobility program, briefly your experience, how you liked it, what you're doing now, plans for the future, your whole life story.
First of all, thanks Brita and Rob for inviting us today here. I'm Javi, I'm from Camins, and I studied mathematics and civil engineering, and I'm very grateful for being in Boulder, and it's an amazing place where you can learn a lot with, well, several professors and other students in the lab. It's an international experience. It's going to be there forever. You meet a lot of people. You have a lot of amazing experiences, and you learn a lot, engineering and personal stuff as well. So for me, it's been life-changing. I'm considering applying again for a graduate school, for a PhD program, because I already did my master's. And I'm still working with my advisor there with some calculations and models. So if you really like research or you see yourself doing more like projects in the university, I totally recommend it to you. And for sure you're gonna do well if you work hard. You have a lot of opportunities in Boulder. Like it's like Barcelona or even more. You can meet a lot of people, but you can do a lot of things there if you like skiing, the mountains, but also you can work hard a lot. And as they have said, you have the opportunity to work in the U.S. afterwards. It's an amazing opportunity to grow in your professional career for the future as well. We have seen it in the video. And I'm right now working here in Barcelona. I just came back from the U.S. and as I said before, I'm considering applying again, and we'll see what the future holds.
Thank you, Javi. So my experience was a little bit different than Javi's because, well, he moved in different circles and he's from another faculty. Well, I am from industrial engineering and also in computer science here, so I'm like the odd one out here. And my entire experience like started the last day of the application where I realized that I was late for applying for this through the university. So don't feel pressured for the deadlines, I would say, because in the end I made it. But when it comes to paperwork, there's usually it feels like a little slow, but if you talk with Britta or Rob, you can just get everything sorted out. And also when it comes to credits here, there shouldn't be any problems. You should get like 30 credits maximum. And also when it comes to my stay there, it was like Javi's, like he said, it was pretty much an amazing experience overall. Although I have to say that it's really expensive. Because like just with the housing, I got like a cheap option. I think it was like $700 a month. But apart from this, you have like way more opportunities than you could imagine. You have like all the free time. Well, not all the free time. You still have to dedicate some time to the lab. But apart from this, you can have at least like the extra month from your visa, which I'm not sure if you've thought. Well. With your J1 visa, you have 5 months or like throughout the semester that you stay there. You have to work, but then you have an extra month, like after submitting your thesis, for example, where you can just like travel around and do some sightseeing, like I did. I went to Utah and then to California. Like I saw some places that you just showcased in the video. But overall, when you're still like doing the project there, you still have time to do any sports outside, which is something that you cannot do in UC Irvine. You can go, yeah, like Rita said before, you have like different sports from different seasons. They're like volleyball courts. You can go skiing, you can go hiking, you can go running, cycling. You can even like go take a bath in the creek. You can pretty much do anything, and also party also. Although the clubs close at 2 a.m., which is kind of weird, but you can do anything about that. And yeah, and I'm also since this experience has been so positive, I'm also considering pushing the PhD starting next September, and that was my experience.
One last thing. Yeah, he mentioned a few things, but they're here to help you with paperwork, even housing, context. There are a lot of Spaniards over there, so I'm sure you'll have cheap places to live or nice places to live, so don't worry about that.
Solicit questions? I'm going to put the last slide.
So we're essentially done with the presentation, and what we'll do is take questions, and maybe we'll take a few minutes if there's questions that might be of interest to the whole group, and then we'll stay afterwards and you can come up individually for questions. So any questions that you might have for the whole group? Yes?
You mentioned that it is expensive to live there and housing is expensive and usually it's expensive, but how much?
Okay, so first of all, for the mobility stay, you don't pay any tuition because you stay enrolled here as a student here, so you pay your tuition here, and the credits you get will be here. And then the students know better than me, but it's typically $800, $900, $1,000 a month for housing to have your own room, and then you would pay a few hundred more for food and things like that. And so probably a minimum of $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a month total. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, it depends where you.
Any other questions for the group? Okay, well, then, like I said, we'll stay a little bit and answer individual questions. And Britta speaks Spanish, so if you're more comfortable asking in Spanish, you can talk to Britta. Our gentleman here will probably stay for a few minutes as well. So thank you for coming, and we hope to see some of you in Colorado in next year.